1. People conform more than they think. Human beings like to believe they are independent thinkers. But the truth is, social influence quietly shapes most of our decisions. Classic psychology experiments, like Solomon Asch's line study, show that individuals often go along with the group, even when they know the group is wrong. This behavior isn't about weakness, it's about survival. Our ancestors depended on fitting in with their tribe for protection, food, and resources. Today, the same instinct shows up when people adopt fashion trends, follow popular opinions, or even laugh at jokes they don't find funny. Conformity helps us avoid conflict and maintain social harmony, but it also means that many of our so-called individual choices are actually guided by the desire to belong. Think about the last time you changed your mind because everyone else was doing it. You probably told yourself it was logical, but deep down, it was social pressure at work. Understanding this hidden influence can help us become more mindful decision makers, learning when to go with the flow and when to stand out. 2. We're wired for storytelling. Humans are natural storytellers. Our brains don't just absorb facts, they crave narratives. When we hear a story, multiple parts of the brain light up, not just the language centers, but also areas linked to emotion, imagination, and even motor responses. That's why you can feel your heart race during a suspenseful scene or tear up at a sad movie. Long before written language, stories pass down knowledge, survival strategies, and cultural values. Today, we still process information best through stories. For example, advertisers don't just sell products, they sell stories about lifestyles, emotions, and dreams. Politicians win support not with data alone, but by framing narratives about identity and future possibilities. Even in everyday life, we remember events better when they're tied to a personal story. This explains why a single compelling testimony can be more persuasive than pages of statistics. By understanding our storytelling instinct, we can use it to communicate more effectively, learn better, and even connect deeply with others. Facts tell, but stories sell because they are hardwired into human behavior. 3. Body language speaks louder than words. You've probably heard that most communication is nonverbal, and science backs that up. Facial expressions, posture, gestures, and tone of voice often reveal more about our feelings than the actual words we say. For instance, someone might say, "I'm fine," but their crossed arms, lack of eye contact, or tense shoulders suggest otherwise. This happens because body language is often subconscious, making it more honest than speech. Psychologists like Albert Merobian found that words alone account for only a small percentage of emotional communication, while tone and body cues do the heavy lifting. In everyday life, reading body language can help us sense when someone is uncomfortable, interested, or hiding something. It also means others are constantly reading us, even when we're not aware of it. Interestingly, body language can influence not just how others see us, but also how we feel ourselves. For example, adopting a confident posture can actually boost self-esteem and lower stress. Mastering body language awareness is a powerful tool in relationships, negotiations, and leadership. It's the unspoken conversation happening all the time. 4. Scarcity changes value perception. Why do people rush to buy limited edition sneakers or panic when a product is almost sold out? This happens because of the scarcity principle, a psychological effect where we assign higher value to things that are rare or hard to get. Scarcity triggers our survival instincts, making us believe something must be important if access to it is restricted. Retailers know this well, which is why you often see limited time offers or only 2 left in stock labels. Even if we don't need the item, the fear of missing out, FOMO, drives us to act. Scarcity also affects relationships and opportunities. For example, a job offer might feel more desirable if it seems exclusive, and people often chase after individuals who appear less available. Interestingly, Scarcity can even distort perception of taste and quality. A rare bottle of wine often feels richer, even if it's the same as a common one. By recognizing this bias, we can make smarter choices, learning to distinguish genuine value from artificial scarcity. Otherwise, we risk chasing things we don't truly need, just because they seem hard to get. 5. Memory is unreliable. Many people think memory works like a video recorder, storing events exactly as they happened. In reality, memory is reconstructive, meaning every time we recall something, we rebuild it, and small details can shift. Psychologists like Elizabeth Loftus have shown how easily false memories can form. In experiments, participants were convinced they remembered events that never happened, like being lost in a mall as a child. Everyday life proves this too. Siblings often argue about what really happened because their memories differ. Why does this happen? Because memory isn't about perfect accuracy. It's about helping us survive. Our brains store the gist of events, especially emotional highlights, but often fill in missing details with guesses. Social influence also alters memories. Hearing someone else's version of a story can unintentionally change our own recollection. This has serious implications in fields like eyewitness testimony, where confidence doesn't equal accuracy. Understanding that memory is fallible helps us stay humble about our recollections and more cautious about treating our version of the past as absolute truth. 6. We're naturally biased. Human thinking isn't purely logical. It's shaped by cognitive biases, shortcuts the brain uses to save energy. These biases often distort decision-making without us even noticing. For example, confirmation bias makes us seek information that supports what we already believe, while ignoring evidence to the contrary. The anchoring effect makes our judgments depend too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even if it's irrelevant. There's also the availability heuristic, where we assume something is more common just because it's easier to recall, like fearing plane crashes more than car accidents. These mental shortcuts evolved to help us make quick decisions in uncertain environments, but in modern life, they can mislead us. They affect everything from business negotiations to political opinions to personal relationships. The surprising part is that even when we know about biases, we're not immune to them. However, becoming aware of these tendencies allows us to pause, reflect, and make more balanced choices. We may never escape bias completely, but we can learn to navigate it more wisely. 7. Helping others increases happiness. It's easy to think happiness comes from focusing on ourselves, getting more money, success, or comfort. But research shows the opposite. Helping others actually boosts personal well-being. Acts of kindness, whether big or small, trigger the release of feel-good chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. This helper's high explains why volunteering, donating, or simply doing something nice for a friend often leaves us feeling more fulfilled than buying something for ourselves. Studies even show that people who regularly help others live longer and report higher life satisfaction. The benefits extend beyond emotions. Kindness lowers stress, improves relationships, and strengthens social bonds. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this behavior has roots in survival. Communities that cooperated and supported each other were more likely to thrive. The beautiful part is, generosity creates a ripple effect. One act of kindness often inspires another. So, while society often pushes self-centered goals, the science of happiness reveals that focusing outward can be the best way to feel good inwardly. Helping others doesn't just change their lives, it changes ours too. 8. Fear spreads faster than calm. Fear is contagious, and for good reason. Evolution wired us to quickly notice threats in our environment. If one member of a tribe sensed danger, the rest had to respond instantly to survive. Today, that instinct still operates, which is why fear spreads faster than calm reassurance. For example, if one person on a plane panics, Nearby passengers often feel anxious, even if the situation is under control. Similarly, fear-driven news stories and rumors tend to go viral more quickly than positive ones. The human brain pays special attention to negative stimuli because ignoring them could be costly. Fear also affects decision-making. When people are afraid, they often take fewer risks, trust less, and focus narrowly on immediate threats rather than long-term goals. On a larger scale, this explains why societies sometimes overreact to perceived dangers. But here's the hopeful side. While fear spreads fast, so can courage and calm, especially when modeled by trusted leaders or peers. Understanding this dynamic helps us recognize when fear is driving behavior and reminds us to choose rational responses over panic. 9. People overestimate others' attention. The spotlight effect. Have you ever felt embarrassed? Thinking everyone noticed your mistake, like tripping, spilling coffee, or wearing the wrong outfit? Chances are, far fewer people noticed than you imagined. This is due to the spotlight effect, the tendency to overestimate how much others pay attention to us. Psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky demonstrated this by having participants wear embarrassing t-shirts. Most thought half the room noticed, but in reality, only a small fraction did. The truth is, most people are too focused on themselves to closely monitor others. Yet, this illusion of being in the spotlight can cause anxiety, self-consciousness, and hesitation. On the flip side, realizing the spotlight effect can be liberating. Once we understand that people aren't scrutinizing us as much as we think, we can take more risks, worry less about small mistakes, and be more authentic. Ironically, confidence often draws positive attention, while self-consciousness makes us feel more visible than we really are. So next time you feel like everyone's watching, remember, the spotlight is much dimmer than it feels. 10. Habits drive most daily actions. We like to think our daily choices are the result of conscious decision-making, but research shows that up to 40 to 50% of our daily actions are habitual. From brushing our teeth to checking our phones, habits run much of our lives on autopilot. The brain does this to save energy by turning repeated behaviors into automatic routines. It frees up mental resources for new challenges. This is why breaking a bad habit feels so difficult. It's not just a choice, it's a deeply ingrained brain pattern. The good news is, habits can be reshaped. Studies show that habits form through a simple loop: cue, routine, reward. For example, stress cue leads to snacking routine, which produces comfort, reward. By changing the routine but keeping the cue and reward, like going for a walk instead of snacking, we can rewire behaviors over time. Recognizing the power of habits also helps us understand why willpower alone often fails. The key to lasting change isn't sheer discipline, it's designing environments and routines that naturally support better behaviors. In short, habits don't just shape what we do, they shape who we are.